The Negev is very much a part of the Promised Land. The southernmost part, to be sure, but very much a part of the Promised Land.
60% of Israel is desert. Land so hostile nothing was supposed to live there. No rivers, no rainfall. Surface heat past 113 degrees. And yet, 2,300 feet beneath that wasteland, something is happening right now that should not be physically possible. Foreign governments have started flying engineers in to study it. Egypt has already begun copying it. The strangest part is that the answer was sitting under the sand for 40,000 years. And for most of that time, nobody had any reason to look. What Israel quietly built down there did not just work. It rewrote what a desert is for. The well that should not exist. The Negev covers more than half of Israel. Ground that cracks like old pottery in summer when surface temperatures climb past 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Rainfall, when it comes maybe twice a year. For thousands of years, no one lived here permanently. There was no reason to. Izar's team had been mapping rock formations for weeks. Routine survey work. They were drilling deep that morning because the geological models suggested limestone, maybe compressed shale, almost certainly nothing useful. The bit pushed past 2,200 feet, then 2,300, and then the ground answered back. The drill punched through. Water erupted up the casing under its own pressure, climbing 2,300 feet against gravity without a single pump running. An artesian well, fully self-flowing, powered by nothing but millions of years of geological force pressing on whatever was trapped below. The crew stood there watching it spray into the desert air, soaking the sand around the rig in a place where soaking the sand was a physical impossibility. Izar did not yet know what he had found, but the flow rate alone told him this was not a pocket. This was something underneath the entire region. What he had tapped was the Nubian Sandstone Aquifer, one of the largest underground water reserves on the planet, stretching beneath 4 countries, covering more than 772,000 square miles, holding enough water to fill Lake Superior 40 times over. The water itself was ancient. Geologists call it fossil water, rain that fell on the Sahara when the Sahara was still green grassland between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago. As the climate shifted and the desert spread, that ancient rainfall got trapped in porous sandstone and sat there, untouched, since before humans discovered fire. Israel had found an ocean beneath the desert. Izar reported it. The country took notice. And then the engineers tested what was coming out of the ground, and the celebration stopped cold. The 2 fatal flaws. The first thing they noticed was the temperature. The water coming up was hot, not warm, hot. A constant 99 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature of human blood. Because at 2,300 feet down, you are deep enough that the planet's core heat takes over. The thermal shock alone damaged plant root systems on contact. The second was salt. After tens of thousands of years in stone, the water had dissolved minerals from every layer it touched. Salinity came in around 3,000 parts per million, roughly 1/10 of seawater, which sounds manageable. It is not. It was more than enough to destroy wheat and virtually every commercial crop within days. Engineers ran field tests. Within 72 hours, the experimental plots showed visible stress. Leaves yellowed, growth halted. Within 2 weeks, most plants were dead. And here's the part nobody saw coming. The logical move was to cap the well, walk away. Mark the file as a geological curiosity. Israel had spent decades trying to make the Negev livable, and the answer the desert finally gave them was a poison chalice. Hot, salty water that would kill anything you tried to grow with it. But somewhere in that disappointment, a researcher asked a different question. Not how do we fix the water? The water was not going to be fixed. The question was, what kind of living thing would actually want to live in conditions like this? If you are the type of person who finds yourself pulled in by stories like this one, the kind nobody expects to end the way they do, hit subscribe before we go any further, because the answer to that question is the moment this story changes shape entirely. The unlikely protagonist. In the tropical river mouths of Australia and Southeast Asia, there is a fish called the barramundi. Silver scales, wide, powerful jaw. A prehistoric-looking thing humans have been eating for roughly 40,000 years. Its natural habitat is the place where freshwater rivers run into the sea, brackish, unstable water where salt content rises and falls with the tides. The barramundi does not just survive there, it is biologically built for it. Its body evolved to handle shifting salinity without stress. And here is where the strangeness begins. The barramundi is tropical. It thrives in water between 79 and 93 degrees Fahrenheit, almost the exact temperature range coming out of the Negev aquifer. Stay with this for a second. The thing that made the water useless to plants, the heat from deep inside the earth, was the thing the fish had spent millions of years evolving to live in. Two more candidates join the list. Tilapia, which can tolerate salinity 5 times higher than the Negev water. European sea bass, which migrates between freshwater and ocean as a normal part of its life cycle. All 3 species had been engineered by evolution itself for conditions that would kill any conventional crop. When the proposal landed on Eleazar Izar's desk, it did not read like science. It read like a fever dream. Farm tropical fish in the Negev. Use the broken water. Turn the desert into an aquaculture zone. By every traditional metric, it was absurd. By the biology, it was almost too clean to be a coincidence. Anywhere else in the world, farming tropical species is brutally expensive. Fish farmers in Northern Europe and North America spend tens of thousands of dollars every season just heating their tanks. In the Negev, the same geothermal heat that destroyed crops kept the water at perfect temperature year-round, for free. So they built it. But what happened next was the part the biology did not warn anyone about. Building the farm. In the early 2000s, the farms went up. Kibbutz Mashabe Sadeh and Aquatech Fisheries broke ground on massive earthen ponds and concrete tanks across the Negev. They drilled additional wells, installed pumps and aeration systems, filled the tanks with barramundi, tilapia, and sea bass. The fish adapted almost immediately. For them, this water felt like home. Within months, the Negev had become one of the most productive fish farming zones in Israel. Kibbutz Mashabe Sadeh now operates ponds across 30 acres. Aquatech Fisheries expanded to 49 acres, with annual production exceeding 2,000 tons. A single pond holding 264,000 gallons can support thousands of fish at once. Izar, deep into his career by then, was reportedly stunned. The well he had drilled in 1973 to map sandstone layers was now feeding tropical aquaculture in a desert. Nothing about that sentence had been possible 50 years earlier. But any experienced fish farmer will tell you the same thing. Keeping fish alive is the easy part. Keeping them alive in their own waste is not. Within months of scaling up, the Negev farm slammed into the wall every fish operation eventually faces. The waste was building up, fast, and it was about to kill everything. The waste problem. A single barramundi eats roughly 3% of its body weight every day. In a pond holding 100,000 fish, the daily output is enormous. As fish digest food, they excrete ammonia, which turns toxic at concentrations as low as 2 parts per million. It burns gills, damages nervous systems, destroys immune response. Bacteria then convert that ammonia into nitrite, also toxic, and then into nitrate. Left alone, a fish pond poisons itself. Traditional farms handle this 2 ways. Filtration is the first. Sand filters, biofilm reactors, sometimes UV sterilizers. Operating costs can exceed $50,000 per year for a single farm. The second option is to dump the contaminated water. Ocean farms in Norway, Chile, and Scotland flush waste-laden water directly into the sea, where excess nitrogen and phosphorus fuel algae blooms that suffocate marine ecosystems for miles around. In the Negev, neither option was available. There was no ocean. The water itself was too valuable to discard because every cubic meter had been pulled from a fossil aquifer that does not refill on any human timescale. The fish would die without water replacement. The water was too precious to replace. This is where it gets strange. Someone looked at the ammonia, the thing about to crash the entire operation, and saw something else. Ammonia is poison to fish, but to plants, ammonia is nitrogen, the single most important nutrient for plant growth. Farmers around the world spend billions every year buying synthetic nitrogen, fertilizer made through Haber-Bosch, a process that alone consumes roughly 2% of the world's energy supply. The fish were not producing waste, they were producing fertilizer. So the question became, What is sitting close enough to the ponds to actually use it? The closed loop. Instead of filtering or dumping, engineers built irrigation pipes directly from the fish ponds to the agricultural fields. The water flowed out of the tanks, slightly cooler now, into the root zones of olive trees and date palms. The crops absorbed the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium from the fish waste. The soil acted as a living biological filter, with bacteria breaking ammonia down into nitrate, while tree roots steadily pulled nutrients from the ground. The first results stunned everyone. Fruit yields on the experimental plots at Kibbutz Mashabe, Sadeh, jumped 15 to 20% compared to conventional growing. Synthetic fertilizer dumps nitrogen all at once, and plants can only absorb so much at a time. The excess washes into groundwater. Fish waste breaks down gradually, releasing a steady stream of nutrients over weeks. Healthier growth, steadier growth. As for the salt that everyone feared would destroy the trees, the answer was already written into biology. Olive trees and date palms both evolved in the Mediterranean and Middle East, where soils are naturally saline. They tolerate salt up to 5,000 parts per million. The Negev water sat at 3,000, comfortably within range. And when plants experience slight stress, they concentrate sugars and flavor compounds. The dates came out sweeter, the olive oil came out richer. Then long-term monitoring revealed something nobody had modeled for. Salt levels in the irrigated soil were not accumulating. The trees were absorbing salt and concentrating it in older leaves that dropped during pruning. They were not just tolerating brackish water, they were quietly desalinating the soil around them. Every output was becoming an input, but none of it would matter if the math did not work. The numbers that make it work. Fresh water from desalination plants in Israel costs between 60 and 70 cents per cubic meter. For most desert crops, those margins are unsurvivable. Brackish water from the Nubian aquifer costs roughly 5 to 10 cents per cubic meter, a 90% discount. The drilling was a one-time investment made decades ago, and the artesian pressure does most of the pumping for free. The fish farm pays to pump the water up. The fish warm it and load it with nutrients. The agricultural operation takes that same water and gets free irrigation and free organic fertilizer in a single delivery. Two industries that would normally compete for scarce water instead share it. Today, multiple farms across the Negev produce over 3,000 tons of fish per year. Israeli barramundi is exported to France, competing on price with fish from Australia and Southeast Asia because production costs with free heat are dramatically lower than anywhere else these species are farmed. Egypt has launched pilot fish farms using Israeli methodology in its western desert. A system born 2,300 feet beneath the Negev is now spreading across the Middle East and North Africa. Geothermal heat instead of gas or electric heating saves 200 tons of carbon dioxide per farm per year. The date palms and olive trees sequester additional carbon on top of that. The system is not carbon neutral, it is carbon negative. But the deeper question is the one nobody has answered. Why did it take 50 years to see it? What it actually means. The Negev did not become productive despite being a desert. It became productive because it is a desert. Every condition that made the land hostile turned out to be a feature the moment someone stopped fighting it. The blazing heat that ruined the water for crops kept the fish at perfect tropical temperatures for free. The salt that killed wheat selected for exactly the species that thrive in it. The ammonia poisoning the ponds turned out to be one of the most valuable agricultural inputs on Earth. Israel did not ask how to change this place. They asked what it was already perfect for. And then they built around the answer. As aquifers drain worldwide and the planet pushes more land toward arid conditions, more of the world is going to look like the Negev, hot, dry, salty, apparently useless. The Negev was never useless. It was just waiting for someone to ask the right question. 1 million tropical fish are swimming in the desert right now. They always could have been. If this story shifted something for you, send it to the person you know who was solving the wrong version of the right problem. They will recognize themselves in it. And if you want more stories like this one, where the answer was sitting in plain sight for decades before anyone bothered to look, hit subscribe. We have more coming. Until then, see you soon.